Good morning. No. Veronica. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah. I'm here already. Copy this link and we go there. And that's it. Okay, let's go live then. Okay, so Veronica hasn't replied yet. And we're streaming, the connection is good. We are live. Send this. What is yes. Good morning, world. Hello, world. World, good morning. Morning. And what the hell is this?
We live in strange times.
I formed a question in my mind at that time. That noise. I didn't know what that noise was. I'd never heard a noise like that before. My hand as well. I said, come on in, have a seat. So I stood up. I went like this to show I had nothing in my hand. The bodyguard stepped into the room and saw me. He froze. I wanted to be ready to be hospitable and offer him a cold drink. So when he arrived, the ice bucket with ice, put some cans of soda in there to get the who's writing a book on the Klan. Would he consider?
What if I told you there's a magical but completely misunderstood place where seemingly all the smart money in the world is beginning to flow?
You walk down the street, you go to a different city, and you say, my God, last time I was here 5 years ago, none of this was here.
It's a place where people are getting wealthier like never before, where more millionaires and billionaires are being created than anywhere else on Earth.
That transformation is probably the most
What is Stansberry Research? Stansberry Research is a subscription-based publisher of financial information and software serving millions of investors around the world. Our business is guided by two simple principles. 1. We strive to give our customers the information we'd want if our roles were reversed. 2. We only publish analysts whose advice and strategies we'd want our own families to read and to follow. At Stansberry Research, we believe in offering a range of opinions. Experienced analysts with their own unique investment strategies and philosophies lead our franchise brands. As a result, we do not promote a single unified view of the markets, but instead, we publish a mosaic of opinions, recommendations, and strategies. This multi-franchise approach gives our work far greater
Hi, everybody. It's Jessica Stone at Stansberry Research. I've got Scott Garlis of the Stansberry Newswire on the line here. And Scott, a lot of little tidbits going into the U.S.-China relationship here. We've got U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer. Hi, everybody. It's Jessica Stone at Stansberry Research, and I've reached Brian Takango, analyst on True Wealth Opportunities China, for a conversation on all the hot money now going to China. We just read the May report, $19.4 billion is now invested in Chinese government bonds. How safe are these investments, Brian?
Yeah, Jessica. Actually, $19.4 billion went into the Chinese onshore bond market in May, and that, I guess, the total now amounts to about $340 billion of foreign holdings in Chinese bonds. That indicates that there's a big appetite for Chinese bonds, despite what's going on in the world market with the tensions between the U.S. and China.
If you want to solve this issue, we need to stop addressing the symptoms. We need to stop addressing the hatred, stop addressing the fear. Go to the source and fix the source. Address the ignorance. If you get rid of the ignorance, then there's nothing to fear because you know it. You fear what you're ignorant of. Okay? You fix the ignorance, there won't be any fear. If there's no fear, there's nothing to hate. If there's nothing to hate, then there's something to destroy. So go to the source, fix the ignorance, and you fix ignorance with education.
Sincere thanks.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
On behalf of everybody that is here at the Center for Leadership Studies for, spending time with us. As I think you know, we do leadership.
There's no fear. There's nothing to hate. If there's nothing to hate, then there's something to destroy. So go to the source, fix the ignorance, and you fix ignorance with education.
Sincere thanks.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
On behalf of everybody that is here at the Center for Leadership Studies for, spending time with us. As I think you know, we do leadership training here. So much of what we talk about is going to be kind of focused in that realm. But I was certainly intrigued when we met for the first time about 2 hours ago about some of the things that you do internationally, your travels and some of the various places that you go to bring your message. So if you wouldn't mind starting there and just say, when you travel outside of our borders to talk with people, who are you talking to, what are you talking about, that sort of thing?
Well, basically, I talk a lot about conflict resolution. And in particular here domestically, my expertise is in race relations. And many of the countries which I visit to give some of these lectures, they have their own issues. Like, for example, I was in India recently, and they have what they call the caste system there. While it's not quite the same as what we have here, there are some similarities, but in terms of conflict resolution, the principles are still the same in bringing opposite parties to the same table to have a conversation rather than avoid each other and solve nothing. Before India, a few weeks before India, in fact, I was in Israel. The conflict there is between the Palestinians and the Jews. And I visited Palestinian groups, I visited Jewish groups, and I even visited a university where Palestinians, Jews, and Muslims all go to college together. So that was pretty fascinating.
Oh yeah. Is there a difference the way your message is perceived internationally than domestically? Is there anything that you could point to, or
Well, in some cases, internationally, some people are familiar with white supremacy here in our country. Some have heard the name Ku Klux Klan and know a little bit about it. Others, they've only heard it remotely and not really. Sent to sitting down and doing an interview face to face. I told her, do not tell him that I'm black. He'll figure that out when he sees me, if he agrees, right? So she called, he didn't ask what color I was, and agreed to do the interview. We secured a motel room. She and I got there super early. We filled up the ice bucket with ice, put some cans of soda in there to get them to get them cold, and to be able to offer him a beverage when he arrived. I didn't know what he was going to do. Once he saw me, would he attack me? Would he say, I'm not going to talk to you and walk away? Or would he come in and sit down and do the interview?
Copy this. To one person know English. Copy this link and put in the chat and go like this. And then if we click here on view together.
Either way, I want to be ready to be hospitable and offer him a cold drink. So when he arrived, first in walks his bodyguard, who was armed. Right behind him was the leader of the Klan in a dark blue suit and tie. When the bodyguard stepped into the room and saw me, he froze. And the leader did not realize that his guard had stopped. He slammed into his back and knocked him forward. And they began looking all around the room like, something's wrong. Either we're in the wrong room or this is an ambush. So I stood up, I went like this to show I had nothing in my hands. And I walked forward and said, "Hi, I'm Daryl Davis."
Okay, guys. So for anybody watching this video today, this is live broadcasting. It's a live broadcast that we here at 121 are practicing or are experimenting with, because we want to learn how to do it, and to do it in a good way, so that eventually when we do more lives, we can do a good job. We can offer a service for people wanting to learn the language. So what I do here is this: I invite a student to join me, and we have a class together online, live. Now, I have a student. She was supposed to be here today, but I think she slept in. I sent her a WhatsApp message and she hasn't replied yet. And so I'm guessing that she couldn't get up this morning. But it's okay, because I'm here, and whoever is there on the other side, if you're there, anybody's there, right, watching this video, and we can do this together. I would recommend that you leave us a message there in our live chat window, so that way I know that there's somebody there. Okay, but anyway, so here in the Whereby interface, what I'm doing is this: I'm watching this video with Daryl Davis, talking about his experience with racism. And what's interesting to me is that it's really interesting when you've reached the level in English that you understand a lot, you understand what people are saying, and then you watch a small section, like, you watch like 30 seconds of a recording of a video, and then when you have to talk about it, you get stuck, you struggle a little bit. So the reason I think that happens is because we understand, but we don't have a very solid command of what they are saying, in the sense that we don't use those kind of words or those constructions very often, and we forget. So when we have to explain, to repeat what we've heard, we struggle. It's a mixture of we're not very familiar, unfamiliarity. Let me try this word: unfamiliarity with the word, with the expression, with the structure, and we also don't remember. So, for example, in this case, Daryl had said that he had secured. Here's the first word: secure. We don't often use that word, or we don't often hear people using that particular word. Basically, he had booked a hotel, a motel. So his secretary had probably called a motel and said, "Look, we need a room for Wednesday the 25th from 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. or something like that." And that's how they secured the room, meaning it was available to them by booking probably. But anyway, so he said they had secured a room, and he and his secretary arrived there super early. They had brought a bucket of ice and some soda cans. And so they arrived early to have the room set up for the interview. And he said he had brought a bucket of ice and some soda cans, and they had put the soda cans in the bucket of ice because he wanted to be able to offer Mr. Kelly, Roger Kelly, this pause. It's my brain trying to remember. If I had some notes here, probably it would be easier. But anyway, the Klan leader, my God, what's the name? The wizard, right? the Klan wizard. God, actually, I really don't remember. So, but anyway, he wanted to offer this guy a beverage, and it's funny because he made a mistake. He said he wanted to be able to offer him a warm beverage, and then of course he fixed and he said that he wanted to offer him a cold beverage. Anyway, this guy arrived on time, to the minute, which means that he was not 1 minute later or 1 minute earlier. So he was very punctual. So they arrived to the meeting, to the appointment on time, to the minute. And Daryl opened the door, and first came Mr. Kelly's bodyguard. He entered the room, and when he saw when he saw David, he froze. Mr. Kelly, who was coming behind him, didn't realize that his bodyguard had stopped and slammed on his back. I think that's what he said. He slammed on his back, knocking him forward. So you see, all these words are keywords that makes it easier for us to not only to report but to retell the story with the same vivid details that Daryl did. And when we forget the exact words, and that makes our job a little bit harder, it makes it harder for us to deliver the story. So it's interesting because the other day I was teaching this very same lesson. We were going over exactly the same topic, with the same video, and a student of mine wanted to say that this guy, he wanted to say that the security guard, the bodyguard, had stopped, had frozen at that moment when he saw Daryl, because Daryl's black. And so he froze. And Mr. Kelly, who was coming behind, did realize that his bodyguard had stopped, slammed into his back, and knocked him forward. Anyway, Daryl went like this, with his open arms, showing the palm of his hands, just to show that he was unarmed, that he didn't have anything. The bodyguard had come with a sidearm, so he was carrying a gun on his hips. He had a sidearm. But Daryl shook their hands and welcomed them into the room. And basically, that's it.
He shook my hand. The bodyguard shook my hand as well. I said, come on in, have a seat. The leader sat down with the bodyguard standing to attention at his right. I sat down, we got on with this interview. But I had a bag beside me in which I had some blank cassettes. I had a cassette player on the table, so every time my cassette would run out, I'd reach down into the bag, pull out a fresh cassette. Every time I'd reach like this, the bodyguard would reach like this. After a while, he realized there was no threat in the bag, and he relaxed.
Okay, so that's another interesting part, I think. So Daryl explained that, as I said earlier, he shook their hands. He shook the bodyguard's hand, and he shook Mr. Kelly's hand. And then he welcomed them into the room and offered them a seat, invited them to sit down. And then they got on with the interview. So as he entered the room, as they entered the room, Daryl explained that the bodyguard stood next to Mr. Kelly, to his right, to attention. As I understood, he stood next to him, standing up, to attention. In other words, paying attention and doing his job, which was to protect Mr. Kelly. So they got on with this interview. On the table, Daryl had a cassette player, a cassette recorder, and every time he ran out of a cassette, he reached into a bag on the floor next to him where he had more cassettes. So every time he reached down to get a fresh cassette, the bodyguard reached to his sidearm, and they went on with the interview. But after a while, he realized there was no threat in the bag. So he realized there was no threat in the bag. So he relaxed, and they got on with the interview.
A little over an hour into this interview, there was kind of a strange noise, and we all jumped. And I knew that the Klan leader had made that noise. I didn't know what that noise was. I'd never heard a noise like that before, so I automatically perceived it to be an ominous, threatening noise. And I was hearing that other Klansman's voice in my head, "Daryl, Roger Kelly will kill you." I didn't want to die. I popped up out of my chair. I hit the table. I was getting ready to come across that table and take down the Klan leader and the bodyguard because I was not armed.
Okay, and that's another interesting part of the story. Actually, this is the key part of the story for us to understand the message that he's going to deliver in a minute. So Derek explained that a little over an hour into the interview, he heard a strange sound like and he had never heard a sound like that. And he knew that the Klan leader had made that noise. He didn't know what that noise was. He had never he had never heard a sound like that, but he knew the Klan leader had made that noise. And then he perceived that as a sort of threat. He used the word ominous, I think, referring to the sound and to the threat. And he said that he kept hearing, right, in his mind, that warning that he should not fool around, that he should not fool with Mr. Kelly because Mr. Kelly was going to kill him. So he kept hearing that message. He kept hearing that voice in his mind. So he popped out of his chair, right, and he hit the table, and he said he was ready. And said he was ready to take down Mr. Kelly and his bodyguard, because he didn't want to die that day. He was unarmed, and he didn't want his secretary to die.
But I was going to just slam them down to the ground, take away the guy's gun. I did not want to die. I did not want my secretary to die. Well, when I came up, my eyes locked with the Klan leader. I didn't say a word. My eyes spoke loud and clear. They were saying to him, "What did you just do?" Well, his eyes had locked with mine. He didn't say a word, but I could read his eyes. His eyes were saying to me, "What did you just do?" And the bodyguard was looking back and forth between both of us like this. "What did either one of y'all just do?" My secretary realized what happened.
Okay. So again, that's another very interesting part. So as he said earlier, he popped out of his chair, he hit the table, and he was ready to take down the bodyguard and Mr. Kelly. He said he was gonna slam them to the ground. He was gonna get the gun from the bodyguard because he didn't want to die. He didn't want his secretary to die. But when he hit the table, right, he didn't say a word. But his eyes locked with the Klan leader's eyes. And now I remember the word. It's called the Imperial Wizard for the national leader of the Ku Klux Klan. So anyway, so his eyes locked with the Klan leader. He didn't say a word, but his eyes spoke louder than words. And and his eyes told the Klan leader, "What did you just do?" His eyes locked with Daryl's eyes too, and he asked the same question, "What did you do? What did you just do?" And the bodyguard looked at both of them and asked, "What did either one of you just did?" So in other words, it was a big confusion. Nobody knew what had happened. And Darrow explained that his secretary, who was in the other room, figured out what had happened.
The ice in the bucket had melted, and the cans of soda came cascading down the ice. And then it made that same noise, and we all began laughing at how ignorant we all had been. Yes, we're enemies. He's the head of the Klan, I'm a black guy. But for that moment, we shared a common laughter. It was a teaching moment. I won't say it was a learning moment yet, but it was a teaching moment. And the lesson taught was this.
Okay, so as Darrow explained, his secretary had figured out what happened. The ice in the bucket had melted, and the cans of soda came cascading down, and made exactly that noise. And then Darrow and the Klan leader, right, they burst out, they started laughing. And you see, here's the moment where your memory starts fading, starts letting you down, because there are lots of things to remember, and you don't have any notes, and you just have to rely on your memory. And then when you don't remember things, that's when you feel that you lose your fluency. I mean, it's not flowing. But basically, he said that they laughed. Okay, so it's interesting because Darrow was saying that, yes, it's true, it was a fact that they were enemies because he was a black guy, the other guy was a Klan leader, they were enemy, but at that moment, they kind of shared a laugh. And then he explained that both of them were ignorant of the fact that that sound was like a foreign sound. It was coming from outside. And it's interesting because he said that that moment was a teaching moment for them. And he pointed out that it was not a learning moment yet, but it was a teaching moment. And then he is going to explain what the teaching lesson was. In other words, he was explaining what the lesson was.
All because some foreign entity of which we were unaware, that being the bucket of ice and cans of soda, entered into our little comfort zone via the noise that it made, we became fearful and accusatory of one another. The lesson taught is this: ignorance breeds fear.
Okay. So, what he explained is that a foreign entity, and then he was referring to the bucket of ice, had entered their little comfort zone. They were having a conversation, they were being at least polite to each other. So that was, the conversation was their comfort zone. Now the bucket of ice was a foreign entity which entered their comfort zone via the noise that it made. Okay, and that element represented fear, because they were ignorant of the existence of that noise, and because of that, they became fearful and accusatory of each other, because a foreign entity had entered their comfort zone. And because of that, they became fearful and accusatory. And the lesson is that ignorance breeds fear.
If you do not keep that fear in check, that fear in turn will breed hatred, because we hate those things that frighten us. If you do not keep...
So, what is the sequence here? Darrow is pointing out that if we don't keep that fear in check, now, fear breeds hatred, because we hate those things that frighten us.
Keep that hatred in check. That hatred in turn will breed destruction.
And the final message is, if we don't keep that hatred in check, that hatred will bring destruction.
We want to destroy those things that we hate. Why? Because they frighten us. But guess what? They may have been harmless, and we were simply ignorant. So we just had some more laughs. We carried on with the conversation. No more problems. I would invite the man, I was interviewing Klan people all around the country. He was the first. I would invite him down to my house. He lived about an hour and a half away. He would come down to my house with his bodyguard. I would invite over some of my other black friends, some of my white friends, some of my Jewish friends, just to allow the leader to engage in conversation with other people other than me. This went on for a couple of years. After a couple of years, he got promoted from state leader, Grand Dragon, to national leader, Imperial Wizard. He began inviting me to his house.
Okay, so having said that, Darrow explained that the interview went on, and after that interview, right, they met again. So Darrow said that this man lived about an hour and a half away from him. After this interview, he invited him to come over to his house on several occasions. Darrow at the time was traveling around the country, interviewing other Klan leaders. But this guy was the first one. And this guy, and what Darrow did was this: he invited other people to come to his house as well, black people, Jewish people. And Darrow's idea was to have this guy listen to other people who had different views of the world from him. And this guy kept coming to his house. And at the time he was a dragon, a state's dragon, but then he was promoted to Imperial Wizard, which is at the national level. And then
I would go to his house. I would see his Klan den where he'd have his meetings. I'd take some more notes from my book. He began inviting me to Klan rallies. I'd go to these Klan rallies, watch these Klansmen and Klanswomen in their robes and hoods parade around this big 20 to 30-foot cross with their torches, and then go to the base of the cross, throw down their torches, and then whoosh, this big thing would be on fire. They would give speeches and things like that. Well, CNN knew who I was through music. They knew who he was through the Klan. I thought this would make a great story. So they asked me when was the next time I was going to a Klan rally. I told them, and they said it was on a Saturday. They said, "Are you performing anywhere Friday night?" I said, "Yeah." So they came by the club where I was playing with my band. They filmed me to show what I do for a living normally. And then they came to my house Saturday morning and followed me 2 hours up the road.
Okay, so at this point, Darrow told us that he kind of developed some sort of relationship with this Klan leader. And after he was elevated, he was promoted to Imperial Wizard, he invited Darrow to come to his house. And then he started inviting Darrow to come to the Klan's rallies. And he started going there and making notes for his books and so on. And at some point, CNN, who knew Darrow because of his music as a musician, who also knew the Klan because of the Ku Klux Klan, decided that that would make an interesting story. And so they asked Darrow when was the next time that he would go to a rally. And I guess it was on a Saturday. And he went there, and CNN went there to film them.
And they said to me, "Do you think Mr. Kelly will even talk to us?" I said, "I'll do better than that. When the rally is over, I'll get the Imperial Wizard to come back to my house, and you can interview the head of the Ku Klux Klan inside a black man's house." They said, "Oh, okay." So they filmed the whole rally, and this clip was shown on CNN every hour for 24 hours all over the world. I want to show it to you now, but I want you to pay particular attention to what Mr. Kelly says. Here you go.
Okay, so the reporter, the CNN reporter, asked Daryl if he believed that Mr. Kelly would speak to them, would talk to them. And then Daryl said that he would offer them something better than that. He said that once the rally was over, that he would invite them to his house, and then CNN could invite the Klan leader, could give the CNN an interview inside a black man's house. And then they recorded the show. They recorded the rally, and they showed around the world every hour for 25 hours. And then Daryl said he was going to play the video, but he wanted people to pay particular attention to something the leader, the Klan leader, said.
Friendship can transcend all kinds of boundaries.
Just look at us. And two men in Washington area are showing that even an African-American man and a member of the Ku Klux Klan can find common ground. CNN's Carl Rochelle reports.
Daryl Davis plays a hot piano. It's part of the show, and it makes him stand out. He also stands out here. Davis is one of the few African Americans you will ever find attending a KKK rally. More than attending, he is welcome.
I got more respect for that black man than I do you white niggers out there.
It's been a tough day for the Klan. Their Maryland rally found many local residents rejecting the message of white separatism. After it's over, Daryl Davis hangs around backstage with his friend, Klan wizard Roger Kelly. It's not unusual for blacks and whites to be friends, but it is unusual to find a black man and a Klan leader chatting pleasantly over an orange soda after a Klan rally. The relationship started over a book Davis was writing. His secretary set up an interview with Roger Kelly, but didn't tell him Davis was black. They talked and talked some more. Davis learning about the Klan, Kelly learning about Davis.
We get to know one another and we do different things, you know. It hasn't changed my views about the Klan, you know, because my views on the Klan's been pretty much cemented in my mind for years.
Kelly and his Klan friends go to hear Davis and his band. And Davis goes to their rallies.
I sat on the front row and listened to each Klansman speak. Some things I agreed with, other things I did not agree with.
Davis thinks that his presence promotes badly needed understanding.
Hate stems, I believe, from fear of the unknown, and I think this is all across the board, regardless of whether it's a Klansman or anything else.
But he has no illusions about the Klan. If he did, his friend would be quick to disabuse them.
And I believe in separation of the races. I believe that's in the best interest of all races.
Does he really? Or has friendship transcended the color barrier? Listen to Kelly at a Klan rally.
I will follow that man to hell and back, because I believe in what he stands for and he believes in what I stand for. A lot of times we don't agree with everything, but at least he respects me to sit down and listen to me. And I'll respect him to sit down and listen to him.
The strange relationship of a KKK wizard and his black buddy. In Washington, I'm Carl Rochelle, CNN Sunday Morning.
Strange. Good adjective, strange.
Certainly that.
Okay. Now you heard the Klan leader say that even though he and I would do different things together, it did not change his views on the Klan, because his views on the Klan had been cemented in his mind for years. And he went on to say how he believes in separation of the races, because that is to be in the best interest of all races. But at the very end, he said that he respected me. I'm his enemy. I'm a black guy. He's in the Klan. He said, we may not agree on everything, but at least he will sit down and listen to me and respect me, and I will sit down and listen to him and respect him. Very important. If you have an adversary, give that person a platform. Allow them to air their views. If you agree with them, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. You challenge them politely and intelligently, not rudely or violently. When you do things like that, there's an excellent chance they will reciprocate and give you a platform to express your views. You make sure you do them intelligently and influentially, because you each have to think at the end of the day, who was right? And if you can just create that little spark, that spark can become a flame and grow. So over the years, he and I would continue these conversations and sitting down, respecting each other to listen to each other. I did not respect what he had to say, understand. I respected his right to say it. And over the years, that cement began to crack and then began to crumble. And then a few years back, Roger Kelly quit the Ku Klux Klan, and when he did, he gave me his robe and hood. This is the robe of the Klan leader, the same one you saw him wearing in that video.
Okay, and then we arrive at this point, and the whole objective of this talk by Darrell was that, to send us that message. So, what he wanted us to pay attention in that CNN report was that in the end, Mr. Kelly was very clear that meeting Darrell, talking to him, didn't change his views. His ideas on separatism and on the separation of the races had been cemented in his mind. But he had great respect for Darrell because they could sit down and they would listen to each other and they would respect each other's right to say what they had to say. So he explained that over the years, the conversation went on. They kept meeting again and again. And he said that those ideas that had been cemented in the Klan leader's mind began to crack and then began to crumble. And then Darrell explained that a few years later, that man left the Klan, and when he did, he gave Darrell his robe and his hood. And the point he was trying to say was this. The way he went about this is to give the message he's sending us is this: we should give our enemy a platform. In other words, give them an opportunity to speak. You don't have to respect what they say, but you have to respect their right to say. You don't have to agree with them. And this is the key, respect. I think it's very interesting when he says that. He did not respect what Mr. Kelly had to say. He respected his right to say. And then eventually, over the years, and through their conversations, those concepts, those ideas those principles that he valued so much because he believed in the separation of races, they began to crack and then to crumble. And that's how Darrell ended up owning the robe, that robe. Mr. Kelly gave it to him.
Right here. It bothers me a great deal that we call ourselves the greatest nation on the face of this earth. Perhaps we are, technologically. We invented the means to put Neil Armstrong on the moon. And while he was up there walking around talking about one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind, we could communicate with him. How is it that we as Americans can talk to people as far away as the moon or anywhere on the face of this earth, but yet many of us have difficulty talking to the person who lives right next door?
So, and then at this point, Darrell delivers a very interesting message because he makes Americans question how advanced, how developed they are. And he says that they might be, technologically speaking. And then, as an example, he offers the moon landing. He said that they had developed technology to put a man on the moon, and they were able to communicate with him while they were there. And then he questions, how is it possible that we can communicate with a man in the moon and with in the far reaches of this globe, but we cannot communicate to the person next door, to our neighbor, because
of the color of their skin, their religion, their persuasion, their ethnicity, etc. It seems to me that before we can call ourselves the greatest, our ideology needs to catch up to our technology.
So, how is it that we cannot talk to the person living next door because of their ethnicity, their religion, the different views of the world? So how is that possible? So Darrow believes that our ideology needs to catch up with our technology before we can call ourselves, before they can call themselves the greatest nation in the world.
And once we get them both up there, we can truly brag. We are living in the 21st century, folks. We are living in space age times, but there's still too many of us thinking with Stone Age minds. The two news desk anchor people implied that I was strange.
So, once again, very interesting, powerful messages. Darrow says we're living in the 21st century, in the age of space exploration, the space age. But the thing is, even though we're living through these times, there are people still living with Stone Age minds.
Well, I'll tell you what, if being strange gets people to give up stuff like that, we all need to be strange. Now, thank
you. Okay, and that was it. So, let me just have a last look here. Yeah, I think my student might have really crashed, but it's okay. And nobody joined me today, apparently. There are no messages there, but it's okay. Like I said, this was more like a test than anything else. And so I think I'm gonna end the streaming right now, or no, maybe I should deliver a last message. Okay, so this is for me rather than for anybody else. So let me use this moment and enjoy the quiet of this room. And I'm recording, so it's an opportunity for me to test the recording, the quality of this recording, the audio, the level of my voice, the volume at which I'm recording, and also it's good for me to later have a look at this and see how I stumble when I want to talk about something like this and improvise. And my goal today was this, just to experiment with this, and see and feel how difficult it is for my students as well. When I show them a video and say, okay, let's talk about this. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you understood. Tell me what you remember. Because with all my experience, I struggle too. It's difficult to remember everything they've said. It's difficult to reuse those words. Of course, by doing that, by practicing, by making an effort, right? There is a development, but we have to be careful because there's a price to pay, because it can be very uncomfortable. So this exchange with the teacher, the way we ask and answer questions and the way we reuse information, the way we use information received through this video, it's very important. And for me, because I'm conducting the class, it's very important for me to see how I'm going to articulate, how I'm going to manage this, because that will have an impact on my students' learning. So that was the experiment for today. I'll take a look at it later and see how YouTube is going to post it, if the subtitles are going to be posted as well, and so on. That's it for now.